Greetings to all the participants and viewers of the broadcast across platform. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Penjur Gale from the Royal Academy in Bhutan, and I will be the moderator for this segment of the webinar. I would like to welcome all to the World Education Week, where we are sharing and discussing on how 5 areas of development, which includes the social, emotional, cerebral, spiritual, and physical, can contribute towards achieving UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which promotes equitable quality education for all in the world. The ever-changing state of our world requires an educational model that is ever evolving, constantly adapting to the needs of the present and anticipating the future. The Royal Academy has developed a holistic curriculum adapting to the society's needs with engaging assessment tools for students and teachers. We are pleased to welcome the 5 coordinators from the Royal Academy to share their learning journey and experiences. We have Ramchandra Dahal, he is the Social Development Coordinator. We have Dikipem, she is the Physical Development Coordinator. On my right, I have Sange Wanchu, he is the Spiritual Development Coordinator. Sring Nidup, he is the Cerebral Development Coordinator. And Sonam Paldin, she is the Emotional Development Coordinator. Before I request the coordinators to share their ideas on the 5 areas of development, I would like to share a brief background on the Royal Academy. The Royal Academy is an initiative of His Majesty the King of Bhutan, Jimmy Gese Namge Wanchu. It is a testament to his recognition of the critical role of education in enriching the lives of people and society, and also nurturing the successive generation of leaders and building a strong, secure, and a prosperous nation. The school at the Royal Academy is a co-educational and a residential school with students from grade 7 to 11. The school, the students come from all 20 districts of Bhutan. In addition to the school, the Royal Academy also has the Educational Research Center and the Teacher Development Center. The 3 centers aspires to help learners, both adults and children, to actualize their innate potential across all areas of development. Social development supports learners to get involved in their communities, work towards common goals, and in the process, understand themselves and others. Emotional development encourages learners to pay attention to their emotions in order to identify, understand, and express them positively and productively. Cerebral development emphasizes communication, comprehension, and critical thinking, and also curiosity to enhance learning. Spiritual development is focused on core values, awareness, and practice rather than on a particular religion. Physical development focuses on health, fitness, and sports. Even though 5 areas of discussed separately, they are all interconnected, and the underlying connection is emphasized through the cross-pollination of areas of development, ideas, and people. Cross-pollination helps learners get an understanding of a concept from different perspectives rather than looking at each component of a concept in silos. The school encourages community-centered approach, which fosters a mutualistic relationship between the community and the learners. The learning process uses the experience from the community and the needs of the learners community to create their backstory of each learner. Learners are given opportunities to become architects of their growth and importantly, raise their bar. To raise their bar, each learner creates their personal roadmap. Skills, process, and watermarks are used as a means of achieving the goals and keeping track of roadmaps. Roadmap is one of the valuable tools for assessment, and indicators of success from the roadmap are used as the basis for assessment. So each person's growth is measured with respect to their personal aspirations. At the Royal Academy, ongoing qualitative assessments like anecdotes, observations, and self-reflections enables a holistic representation of an individual learner from multiple perspectives, starting with their own. From all these inputs, a portrait of a learner emerges over time, which represents their overall journey of development. This portrait also becomes a vital source for the assessment of the school community itself. So these are some of the fundamental principles that guides the practices and implementation of the 5 areas of development. With that, I will be asking each coordinators to share their ideas on how we can help learners actualize their potential across all areas of development, which are practical and relevant for our time. There will be a question and answer segment after the presentation. If any of you have any questions, please type into the chat box and I'll read the questions to the coordinators. Now I would like to request Sonam Palan, who is the Emotional Development Coordinator, to share her thought on the importance of nurturing the emotional development of learners and how emotional development is integrated into the learning process.
Benjo, Kuzuzangpola, everyone. I would like to start by bringing your attention to the dynamics of our population. More than half the population in Bhutan is below the age of 28. And for a nation such as ours, education is crucial in creating the just and harmonious society that His Majesty the King, Jigme Gesar Namgye Wangchuk, envisions. In the creation of a just and harmonious society, we need self-leaders from all walks of life, and a necessary skill that a leader of the 21st century should possess is emotional development. Emotional development at the Academy is based on trust, and this is designed so because, according to universal human values, trust is the foundation for all feelings. And without trust, other emotions cannot be understood, can't be nurtured, nor regulated. So we know it is important. But then again, in 2006, the Center for Bhutan Studies conducted a gross national happiness survey where it was found that trust is a diminishing value in our society. Therefore, it becomes more important that trust be made part of our education so that our collective efforts to create a just and harmonious society becomes part of the learning process. When we think of a society, we think about relationships, and relationship is an important aspect of actualizing one's potential. A relationship with self, community, and the environment is an integral part of an individual's growth. And here, when we think of relationships, we think of one that is based on Tendre, the Bhutanese word for interconnectedness. Based on this concept, I cannot exist without you. And this understanding establishes the essence of a relationship. And all relationships require trust. So it is therefore all the more reason for us to consciously develop and maintain it across all aspects of our interaction and connections. Studies also show that a child needs one person, just one person who trusts and believes in them. And if they have that one person, the child grows up with the mindset that she can actualize her potential. At the Royal Academy, the core of a relationship is that of a mentor and a mentee. In this relationship, the mentor assumes the role of that one person who trusts and believes in the mentee, and thus allows them a safe and space space for them to nurture, to value, and to cultivate trust, to establish connections, express emotions, and feel accepted to express and regulate themselves. Based on this relationship, we spend a significant amount of time looking at the backstory of the learners and the pre-knowledge that individual children possess when creating our roadmap. The focus being on understanding that there is an entire universe within ourselves, and becoming aware of this universe is an important first step in our learning journey. We also explore the fact that there is constant interaction between these two, and they influence each other. And in this constant interaction, our mindset, our attitude, and our perspectives are being set and reset time and again. So some of the skills and processes that we look at in emotional development are awareness, recognition, articulation, identification, acceptance, and regulation. And some examples of emotional learning opportunities are the 20 minutes of self-time every morning where you set the right tone and intention for the day. Reflective practices like journaling, mapping of emotions in the body, maintaining thought logs, engaging in the creation of art, music, theater, and more importantly, interacting with nature in order to discover and enhance our interest, our hobbies, and passion. And through these learning opportunities, learners develop skills to become more adaptable, face challenges with rigor and resilience, become sensitive to the needs of others around them, and learn to observe changes so that they respond to it rather than react. Jiglam Namja is an important aspect of an individual's interaction within a community. And simply put, it translates to Bhutanese etiquette. But the essence of the word is beyond simple etiquette. For us, it means unity and solidarity in the way we conduct ourselves. Therefore, the ultimate goal for emotional development is to bring about a harmonious unity and solidarity between our thoughts, our actions, and speech, so that we in turn have the skills to be a constructive member of a just and harmonious society, both internally as well as externally. It is all about working on the well-being of an individual in order to guarantee the well-being of the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonam, for sharing how the emotional development is equally important towards achieving holistic development. Now, I would like to request Sangye Wanchu, who is the Spiritual Development Coordinator, to share how spiritual development enables learners to form perspectives on life and the universal values.
Thank you, Penjo. First of all, I would like to explain you what is spiritual development at the Royal Academy. There is no single or widely agreed upon the definition of spirituality in general. Studies show a range of definitions. However, spiritual development at the Royal Academy is to ensure that each learner become the best they can be by actualizing the potential to discover the treasure of innate goodness for the benefit of individual and community. It's also about finding joy in every experiences and to understand the essence of altruism and empathy. The well-being of community is to constituted by helping each learner not only to have a comfortable life with material facilities, but a happy and peaceful life towards creating harmonious society in this modern world in coherence with nature. This also connects with our national goal of gross national happiness. But how do we make it happen? To make it happen in reality, we have core values, spiritual skills, concepts to be learned, practiced, and cultivated. The sum of examples of core values are being a good human, exploring and developing inner tranquility, inculcating Buddhist value like Thadamse and Lechundi, which translate to cause and effect, and Jiglam Namja, which my colleague Sonam has mentioned as Buddhist etiquette. Buddhist etiquette here, it doesn't mean to just wear our Buddhist dress, go and kira, but it's more of thought, speech, and action. And also to promoting and preserving both tangible and intangible culture of our nation. And more importantly, the learners will be able to be good citizens and represent our nation. So to able to inculcate all those core values, we also have to have some skills like mindfulness practices, the 3 applications for spiritual growth, 4 applications of attentiveness, and 9 ways of resting mind. And we also have some spiritual values that we strive for are compassion and love and compassion, integrity, respect, and determinations. The spiritual concepts that we have to learn are distinction between religion and spirituality, Buddhist culture, tradition, and identity, Tendel, which is a term for interconnectedness, as mentioned by my colleague Sonam, and good human being, and just and harmonious society, happiness, and contentment. Now, to implement these inputs, we start our day with Ngendo, which translates to preliminary practice. But for us, it's of 20 minutes quiet time before we start our day to set our intention and settle our mind. So starting with this, the learners will be more mindful of one's thought, speech, and action for the rest of the day. And we also focus on understanding and finding self, or the existence of self, to transform into selflessness to create the just and harmonious society. The process of implementing these inputs encourages all the learners to create an individual roadmap, which includes the focus area, indicator of success, action plan, and timeline for each goal. It is a continuous evolving process where at the end of each term, we review our roadmap and make changes where required. This provides an opportunity for learners to take ownership of their learning process. Through this process, each mentor will understand the spiritual growth of their mentee and assess them through introspection, peer assessment, reflection, and observations. In each term, we also plan various programs for spiritual growth, incorporating all the areas of developments and 7 domains. These programs are for different groups and address the needs reflected in their learners' roadmap. We also use the 7 gifts as a resource for learning experiences. The 7 gifts are brought to us by the children from their home. The gifts are stories, patterns, songs, dances, indigenous games, recipe, and language from all parts of Bhutan. An example of how we use the 7 gifts could be the use of stories that have spiritual value and distinctive cultural and traditional aspects from all 20 Tongas. As a part of spiritual learning experiences, learners are also engaged with the community in rendering services and to learn from them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sange, for sharing how spiritual development transcends beyond religion. And like any other areas of development, spirituality can be practiced and inculcated in learners. Now, I would like to request Sring Nido, who is the Cerebral Development Coordinator, to share what are the approaches taken to help learners achieve the required skills, processes, and watermarks in the cerebral development.
Thank you, Penjo. So I'd like to go back and look at what my colleague Sange just talked about when he shared about the importance of community in the learning process. Whether it is through the collection of the 7 gifts, our children's contribution to the learning process, or the aspirations of each learner that we collect in the process of creating their roadmaps about what is it that they would like to learn and what is the process that they want to follow. So all these helps us add to the content that is given to us by an examination board. And we use this content to then help our learners develop the skills, processes, and watermarks so that they are able to deal with the ever-changing content. So in this process, we look at exam-taking skill as just one of the skills that the learners need to learn. And when you look at exam-taking skill as just one of these skills, the whole dynamics of the learning process changes. And as shared by some of my colleagues, we use the lens of cross-pollination to look at the learning process. And when cross-pollination becomes the lens, we look at the roles of teachers and students as interchangeable. So in this process, we look at the fact that there is a lot of things that the adults can learn from young adults as much as young adults can learn from the adults. So this also changes the whole aspect of how we look at students, not just as somebody who needs to be taught, but somebody who can teach us a lot of these things. For this to happen, assessment becomes very, very crucial. And for us, assessment is the engine that drives progress. And what do I mean by that? It is the fact that you don't use assessment as a number or a mark to represent how the child is doing. We rather use anecdotes, observations, the indicators of success that the learners are setting for themselves in their roadmaps as something that we can use to depict the learning journey of a learner. In this process, we also use reviews, or in some other parts of the world, you call them exams. For our reviews, we have individualized reviews where each learner gets their own paper, which provides them with the opportunity to showcase what they have learned. And also there are questions that will challenge them to raise their bar in their roadmaps. We also have cross-pollination reviews where you combine the areas of development, domains, the skills and processes to come up with questions which kind of resemble what the learners go through in real life. We understand that in real life, nothing is in silos. You have to use your understanding from everywhere to come up with a solution to something. So throughout this whole process, technology, as it is evident, plays a very, very important role. For us, technology is the enabler of the learning process. And by that, I mean, we use technology to create and keep track of the learner's roadmap. Technology helps us transact the learning experiences. And it also helps us collect data on how a child or a teacher is growing. And it also allows us to analyze that data to come up with directions for the learner to propel their learning journey forward. And we also understand the whole educational journey as a process of learning to make choices and to take responsibility of those choices. And as the learners go into grades 11 and 12, for example, they go through a self-curated area of study where they find out what is it that they are passionate about, and they go into exploring about that particular concept or a topic. And in this process, the adult is just the provider of support whenever the child needs them. We also have certain areas of study such as mountaineering, culinary, woodwork, which helps the learners build onto their skills, processes, watermarks, and understanding of concepts. And the idea is that some of the learners can use their experiences and processes through these areas of study to go into the world of work when they graduate from the school at the Royal Academy. Now, one of the indicators of United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 4 of quality education is to provide access to quality teachers. At the Academy, we help our teachers to go through a process of unlearning and learning, where they get to see the students as the provider of resources, like the 7 gifts we shared about, and also helping the teacher grow. And when you look at this process, the whole aspect of how you look at a student and how you look at the learning process changes, which takes me back to our concept of cross-pollination, where you look at anything as a teacher and something that you can learn something from. And in this whole process, we also understand that most often the teacher, the best teacher for you is yourself. So the students and the teachers need to understand this process. And that's what cross-pollination usually means to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tsering, for sharing the various approaches taken to help learners through their learning journey. Now I would like to request Dikipem, who is the Physical Development Coordinator, to share how the physical development is incorporated into the learning process.
Thank you so much, Penjo. As my colleagues mentioned about important roles played by the communities in the learning journey at Academy, having children from 20 very rich and diverse districts from Bhutan actually brings diversity in terms of their culture, their attributes, values, beliefs, and skills that actually enhances the robust and wholesome education at the Royal Academy to develop the learners into the all-rounded members of the society. So having those strengths, I think it really helps the coordinators to create safe, secured, and inclusive learning community whereby we co-create the learning opportunities in fitness, sports, then adventurous learning opportunities. According to the World Health Organization, 1 out of 4 adults are not living active lifestyle. In a similar manner, 80% of adolescents are not engaged sufficiently in physical programs. So WHO recommends minimum of 60 to 120 minutes of engagement in moderate to vigorous kind of physical programs. So at Academy, we ensure all the learners includes both faculty and the students, into 2 hours, minimum of 2 hours of engagement in physical program in a day. The day at Academy starts with various range of opportunities in the morning physical program, which includes yoga, meditation, calisthenic, aerobic dances, nature walk, and jogging using the beautiful space that we live in. And being in carbon negative country actually enhances the health and well-being of all the people living in Bhutan. And in the evening, we also ensure children take part in various kind of sports that includes Bhutanese indigenous games. And these Bhutanese indigenous games are brought to us as one form of gifts by the children from their communities. And any gift that is brought to us by the children actually contributes a lot in learning journey at academy. So besides all these opportunities, we also go in nature a couple of times, sometimes for a week-long duration of nature retreat, and sometimes for a few days of hiking, trekking, and community engagement programs. All these opportunities not only enhances the physical growth, in fact, it ensures the well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual growth, and more than anything, the social development of social attributes in every individuals. And we have also observed students demonstrating rigor, resilience, taking ownership, taking responsibilities, and working as a team when they are put in the real life situations. For example, during the pandemic, our students went back home, and for the couple of weeks, they spent helping their parents understand the situation within the country and around the world. And they also helped their parents to get habituated to the preventive measures that are put in place by the government, and also to have access to the authentic source of informations. Once they settled, they opened their eyes and felt the need of community coming together, and they initiated and took lead in community engagement programs such as cleaning campaigns. Children went in the nature, identified trails that they could use for evening walks with their family members. Children also taught yoga, meditation to their siblings and also the community people. And some children, they identified local, herbal plants. By the way, Bhutan is well known as Menjungi Gekhap, so the land rich in herb and medicinal plants. So children, went in the communities, seek support from the elderly people and wrote documents on local herbal plants, and they shared amongst themselves and with us as well. So all these opportunities actually enhances, as I mentioned, all 5 areas of development, and nothing works in silos actually. We are all like interconnected and supplement one another. So as the learning opportunities, we also have opportunities for assessment. And assessment is not about judging somebody based on right or wrong, but it's more about guiding oneself according to the goals and indicators of success that we have put in our roadmaps. So for physical area of development, one of the assessment that is very consistent and continuous is standard fitness tests. So we conduct 4 times of standard fitness tests in a year. That is spread at different intervals in a year. And it consists of like 13 components, which touches on health, fitness, and well-being of the children, which also gives us clarity on where our students are and where children are heading towards their goals. So all this actually helps the learners to grow in a holistic way. And as my colleagues mentioned, nature, community, and technology plays a crucial role in the lives of all the learners at Academy. In fact, technology help us to see from the lens of non-silo aspect in all the areas, all the domains, and everything that is around us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diki, for sharing how physical development not only focuses on the individual fitness, but also takes in account the physical environment of the learner. Now I would like to request Ramchandra Dahal, who is the Social Development Coordinator, to share how social skills are inculcated in individual, which in turn actualize the community's potential.
Thank you, Penjo. I want to start by reflecting on the educational journey that most of us have been through, where the system followed one-size-fits-all approach. And the focus of the system was only on where they wanted the learners to go. And the only indicator of success was the examinations. The rich knowledge, experience, wisdom, and the different kinds of homes that we came from didn't find much importance in the system. Therefore, the learning process at the Royal Academy begins at home or the community that our children come from. Some children are good in sports, some of them are good in writing, and some of them are good in hands-on experience. For example, to do agricultural work. So therefore, our children have different strengths and weaknesses, and this becomes our backstory. And the very purpose of the Royal Academy is to be a safety net, meaning ensure a conducive environment where our children can become adventurous and explore for opportunities. And it does not matter what kind of homes our children come from. So therefore, the rich experience that our children bring with them and the conducive environment that the Royal Academy gives helps our children to make their roadmap. And on this, our children can write what they want to learn and how they want to actualize their potential. The willingness to challenge oneself becomes very important. Social development also gives an avenue for our children to learn and explore more about oneself and others. And this is achieved through the mentor-mentee groups that my colleagues were talking about, where there is a lot of interaction between the mentor and the mentee or amongst the mentees themselves. So therefore, this leads to the cross-pollination of ideas and building relationship which is based on trust. We also want to have our learners to have a strong bond and connections with the community. So we feel that it's important for them to understand the interrelationship and dynamics of our communities. For example, in a community, if a member wants to build a house, the other members of the community would render support in various forms. And the support could be through labor, it could be through kind or cash. So in this way, the person who is building the house feels supported. And this is how the members of the community contribute to the well-being of the community and the society at large. So therefore, we don't want to alienate our children from such good practices. So we take our children and make them involved in different community process where we go and learn. And through this, we get to enhance our skills, get to know the history, learn about people, and also have fun and find joy in doing this. We also be part of plantation and harvest of different vegetables and crops that the people of the community plant. And then we buy these vegetables, and this is how we support each other. Our children also use recipe that they bring from home to cook food for other children every Sunday. We use songs, dances, patterns, and games on various different occasions. We also use stories to learn about the challenges and opportunities of different communities. And in this way, it helps us to be prepared to improve the social conditions that we aspire for and find solutions to the problems faced by the community that we live in. So therefore, these 7 gifts, which are the contribution made by the children, becomes the part of the learning process across 5 areas of development. We also cultivate social development through leadership, and we believe that leadership begins with self. And self-leadership is about managing oneself well. It's about being resilient, and also self-leadership is about learning to rise above challenges. So therefore, a lot of opportunities are offered to our learners to enhance their leadership skills. It could be through campus beautification program, agriculture, games, cleaning campaign, or plantation. Or also through nature retreat, where we walk through the mountains into the deep forest. We learn to sing, cook, dance, and then learn from each other. Social development should help our children become a person of substance. And by this, I mean a person of substance is somebody who has willingness to challenge oneself, who is open to ideas. And also a person of substance is somebody who is a trustworthy member of a community. And finally, a person who acts with integrity at all times. We believe that integrity must become part of one's DNA, and each member of the Royal Academy must work towards building integrity as a national character. So therefore, the choices that our learners make should help them become a responsible, contributory member of a just and harmonious society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram, for sharing how social development goes beyond social skills and focuses on helping learners to become a person of substance. So now let's move on to the question and answer segment. I have received many interesting questions from participants. However, in respect of time, I won't be able to read out all the questions. So I'll be selecting few. If I do not get to your question, then I'll personally email you after the session to get an answer to your question. The first question that I have received is from Sahil Tandon, and this question is for the emotional coordinator. The question is, how is emotional development of learners assessed at the Royal Academy?
Thank you for the question, Sahil. Tsering spoke about how assessment is very important for us here. And when we look at assessment for the emotional development, it's very similar for all the areas of development. We go back to looking at our roadmaps. Our roadmaps have very three important milestones for an individual learner. First one is the backstory. It gives you a picture of where you were and where you come from. The second one is your present goals and aspirations. This gives you a sense of your own strength and areas that you need to work on. And the third important milestone is the indicators of success. Those are the aspirations that you have for yourself to move forward. So those are the changes that you want to see in yourself. So when you look at those three important milestones, especially in terms of emotional development, self-assessment becomes very important, because as a learner, you know that what are the changes that you're going through. You know where you were, where you know where you are, and you know exactly where you want to be. So when you look at those three important milestones, that becomes part of your self-assessment. And whatever changes that happens within you can be observed by people around you. So peer observation, observation from the teachers, those are also part of the assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonam, for sharing on giving your ideas on how the emotional development is assessed at the Royal Academy. The next question that I have is from Anushri for the Cerebral Development Coordinator. The question is, what's the future prospects for the students passing out from the Royal Academy?
Thank you, Anushri. I think you sounded like one of our students and their parents, because that's exactly the question that gets asked a lot of times. What are the future prospects? And for us, sometimes the answer might be a little disappointing. It's about, we ask them, what's your passion? What are you passionate about? And I mentioned about the choices when I spoke about cerebral development and the learning process, and how choices and the making of choices and taking ownership of those choices becomes very important. And you can only make choices when in something that you are passionate about. So we help our learners carry their passion forward. Like I said, as they go into grades 11 and 12, we already start to get them thinking about, what is it that they would like to do after they graduate from the Royal Academy, whether they want to pursue something in a college, or whether they want to be part of one of those areas of study, or somebody might decide to do something on their own. So for us, it's all about taking the passion of the learner. Like I said, the adults become the support mechanism. We help them carry their passion forward. So in a sense, this is what the prospects for the students of the Royal Academy are. I know this is not a definitive answer, but if you are somebody who is part of the learning process at the Royal Academy, I hope you will understand what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Tsering, for sharing the ideas. Our next question I have is from Rinzin to the, the question is from Dr. Ashrukona for the social coordinator. The question is, does the school collaborate with other schools, institution, professional group, locally and globally?
Thank you, Dr. Ashukona. The school has been involved in different activities with different organizations and schools, both locally and globally. And I'll give you a few examples for this. So in about 30 to 40 kilometers distance from the Royal Academy, there is a school that caters education to the needs of special children. So we have been involved with this school for the last 2 years, where they have taught us how to learn sign language. And through this, we have been able to learn a new language. And also, we have been able to communicate better with people who have those abilities. And also, we have 4 graduates of that school who have been part of our team right now, and they are working at various capacities. And secondly, we have also been part of a program which is called as APSI, and that stands for Asia Pacific Schools Initiative, where students and teachers from this region come together and then share about their culture, tradition, differences, and then challenges and opportunities that they have in different countries. So therefore, through this, we have been able to learn more about different countries, learn more about each other, and hopefully when these children becomes leaders in future, they will maintain this connection and then continue to learn from each other. And then hopefully that learning they will be able to use that learning in their communities that they live in. And then thirdly, we also have something called as school leaders retreat, where the teachers and principals from different schools in Bhutan come together, and they have been sharing some good practices about teaching or management and so on. So in this way, we have been able to cross-pollinate ideas and learn from each other, draw in inspiration, and use that in our respective community. So these are few things that I can think of right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram, for sharing the various like opportunities like the Royal Academy is providing both locally and globally. The next question that I have is for the Physical Development Coordinator. The question is from Mahatab Siddiqui, and the question is how the physical development area enhance the well-being of every individual.
Thank you so much for the question. Regarding the well-being of every individual, I want to start from what emotional coordinator talk about. Every individual comes with the universe inside them. So me as a physical coordinator, it's my role and responsibility to understand what are the passion, hobbies, their strengths and areas for improvement. So once I get to know that, I have to ensure the safety environment for child to express his or her wants and also passions to learn and physical area of development. Once I get that, it's my job to contextualize any program related to health, sports or fitness towards the individual child's interest and passion. For example, during the current pandemic, one of my students who lives in high altitude, his parents are nomads, and the parents were actually the bridge between the child and me. The child was in the high mountains collecting cordyceps, and then the mother was reporting to me saying that my son goes on the mountains for a couple of hours, like 3 hours in a day, and is that okay for his physical development area? So I feel that that is more than enough for him every day walking on the mountains for 3 hours. But I also communicated what he needs to consider, for example, diet and also about the altitude sickness. So those things actually, what I want to say is the well-being of every individual should be looked after by the parents and all the adults. And besides that, I would also suggest live in coherence with nature, and at the same time balance your time with screen, and then have diglum with your mind, basically discipline of your mind in terms of like putting rigor, resilience, and also raising your bar on consistent basis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diki, for sharing your ideas. The next question that I have is for the spiritual coordinator, Sange. The question is from Rinzin Doma, and the question is, how do you teach students to differentiate between spirituality and religion?
Thank you, Tenzin Doma, for your question. It's really a broad concept where we really can't draw a line or distinction between these two concepts. And there may be various understanding and explanation based on one individual thoughts and from many different perspectives. But our understanding of distinction between these two, if I give you an example or a metaphor, for example, the religion is like a school where it is its own system, rules and regulation that has to follow, and which established based on the people of the community wanted. Whereas the spiritual is like learning or education. So for learning and education, we really don't need like a school system. So learning here means to actualize our potential. So for that, we don't really need school system. Though there are many things that we learn from school, but it's not that mandatory to have school to learn. So these are some examples of differentiating the religion and spirituality. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sange, for just giving us an idea about the spirituality and the religion. The next question that I have is, it is an anonymous question that the username is not there. So any of the coordinators can just jump in to answer this question. The question is, how are the individualized papers created? Are they all unique, or are there any different sets of question papers?
I think I might try and answer this question. So when I referred to individualized papers, I think the first thing we need to look at is why do we do this individualized papers? And I think by now we look at individual roadmaps and also looking at how an individual is growing. So in this sense, what's more important in this is that the teacher and the student gets an understanding of where each child is. And through this process, when the individualized papers are being set, it is important for the teachers to know the strengths and weaknesses of each individual. So in this process, are they all individualized? My answer is yes. Each child gets a paper of their own with their name on the paper. And there are questions, like I said, which provides the opportunity for this particular child to showcase what is it that they have learned. And there are also questions that makes them think, oh, I need to work on more on this. And this feeds into their roadmap. Now, when the papers are individualized, it's quite obvious that we don't have a system of invigilation. So we give the children the papers, and then the teachers are not in the room. If the students ask questions, the teachers go and answer them. So each paper is individualized. There are different ways of doing that, and each teacher has their own way of creating them. And I think that is also an opportunity for the teacher to showcase how well they know the student, not just for the student to showcase how well they know the teacher. So in this process, I think the whole idea also is that the teacher provides the student a question. And since that question is individualized, he looks forward to receiving the answers, because he knows this particular child will give me a certain aspect of this particular concept. So in this process, I think the whole aspect of assessment and reviews becomes an enjoyable process for not just the students, but also for the teachers. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Just to add on to what you have already mentioned, because one of our questions, anonymous question, has come up. It is quite related to what you have talked about, the individualized paper. So the question is more or less about how the technologies are used in individualizing the question papers, or how the learning process is individualized using the technology. If anyone, otherwise Siring or any of the coordinators.
So maybe I'll continue from there. So technology, like I said, is quite important. And when you look at the students coming in, we look at a baseline of them, looking at where each one of them stands. So in this process, it is quite evident that manually doing all these things are very, very difficult. So we use technology in different forms to help us collect data on the learners, and then use that data to get the teachers and the student to understand where they are, what are the kind of inputs that they need to do, and more importantly, where are the areas that the particular student can support, or a particular teacher can support somebody else in their learning journey. Now, the creation of the roadmaps and the maintaining of those roadmaps, which is a very critical tool for us, is using technology. And it is a collaborative process between the learner and the teachers. The students sit down to create the targets for themselves. That gets reviewed by the mentors, by the teachers, and likewise for a teacher, their roadmaps get reviewed by their domain heads, the coordinators. So there's a lot of interaction between the individuals through technology, and also the creation of individualized papers. we use technology, for example, in the form of, you can use a lot of different things on Google. The Google Suite allows you to do a whole bunch of things. And we have also created some of these technologies in-house with our own little technology team to keep track of the students, collect data, and also generate reports on them, which can be used by the learner and the teachers to create their next roadmap, update their roadmap, or also to look at when the next set of individualized papers are created, to look at how a learner has moved from the last review to the next review, and then planning the things like that. So in that sense, technology helps us do all of these, which is almost impossible if we have to do all these things manually.
Thank you, Tsering. There's one more question from it's more not a it's a combination of both a message and a question from one of the anonymous viewers. The message is: Bhutan is a very beautiful, very fortunate to have a beautiful and a healthy natural ecosystem. I'm admiring the forested mountains behind you. So I think this question is more or less directed to Sonam Palden, the emotional coordinator. So how does the nature benefit children's emotional well-being? How do you engage with nature at the Royal Academy?
Thank you for the question. I think most of us talked about how community is very important. So when we talk about community, the natural environment that surrounds us also becomes part of our community. And we've also spoken about how we actually use the space for a lot of things, including the nature retreats. If I give you a few examples of how do we use the nature around us to enhance the emotional well-being of learners, I think one example could be where you learn from nature. And one very good lesson from nature could be the lesson of impermanence in order to build rigor and resilience in order to face challenges. So just like the seasons in the nature, they are not here forever, they change. And because we can accept that seasons change, we can prepare for that change. We know, we understand those are impermanent. Similarly, if we can understand, apply that same understanding with our emotions, whether it's a pleasant emotion or an unpleasant emotion that you're experiencing at the moment, if you can understand that just like the seasons in nature, even the emotions and the challenges that you're experiencing are impermanent, then you're able to accept it and prepare for what's to come after. So that is an example of how we use the nature to talk about our emotional well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonam, for sharing how the Royal Academy engages with the natures, and the learning process is more or less uses the nature as an important process. The next question that I have is anonymous question from, and the question is: how is the concept of cross-pollination taught at the Royal Academy? So it's anyone can just any one of the coordinators can just come in.
Thank you for the question. So I'll try to answer this. We already talked about how we bring a lot of 7 gifts basically from different communities. So therefore, I said that this becomes the part of the learning process, where in this process, it's in a very conventional setting. It's often the mode of delivery is didactic, where it's often the teachers who tend to teach in unilateral direction. But through this concept, we also give platform for our children to become teachers. So therefore, that's where the rich diversity, that's where the rich culture, tradition that's there in different communities will come through. And it also gives opportunity for our children to take the seat of a teacher and then share their ideas and thoughts with other people. And then the other idea is also about using the space. Somebody rightly talked about the beautiful forest that we have behind us. So therefore, again, so quite often we tend to talk about trees inside the classroom. But here we have the opportunity to use the space that's around us and also use the expertise of different people For example, the local people in the community know a lot about different mushrooms, the birds, the plants that are around us. So in this way, we get to interact with different people and also learn and cross-pollinate different ideas. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram, for sharing this. Due to the limitation on the time, I think this is the we are ending it here. I would like to thank my colleagues from the Royal Academy, Bhutan, and the audience in making the session interactive and successful. The interaction clearly shows that we are in the same journey, though we might take different paths, but our destination is towards achieving a quality education which is holistic. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the T4 for organizing the World Education Week and bringing like-minded people from all walks of life to share their ideas and thoughts. Only way to change the world for the better, we need to work together to bring sustainable and equitable education for all in the world. As we have come to the end of the session, I would like to conclude with a quote from His Majesty the King of Bhutan, Jimmy Gese Namgyalwachu. I quote, "The future is neither unseen nor unknown. It is what we make of it. What work we do with our two hands today will shape the future of our nation. Our children's tomorrow has to be created by us today." On that note, thank you everyone for joining us today and stay safe.